Tonight's story is about Shlomo Hamelech's very, very beautiful daughter, and to the best of my knowledge, her name was Avigail. And she was considered the most beautiful out of all of his children. And she was the richest girl in the land. At the time of Shlomo Hamelech, she was his daughter, she was a princess. And he kept saying, my daughter Avigail, she's such a good girl, and she's got such yirat shamayim and midot tovot. She's kind and nice to people and humble, and she always wants to do the right thing. And she's also very, very beautiful. She is going to marry the most important man in the land of Israel, the greatest Talmid Chacham, and the richest boy from the most important, prestigious family. Well, actually, children, it seems that there was some sort of either bat call, or maybe it was through astrology. A bat call means like a heavenly voice. And do you remember the story of the golden slippers where Banai keeps hearing? Yeah. Banai, don't forget the golden slippers.
I don't remember that part.
Yeah, so he has a heavenly voice. He has a bat call. Right, now, well, the bat call, today's bat call, we don't hear it. But before a baby is put into a mommy's tummy, 40 days before what's called a baby is conceived, before Hashem puts that neshama in the mother's stomach, a bat call in Shamayim calls out, this and this girl is going to marry this and this boy, or the daughter of this one to the son of this one. And they tell him, well, there's a bat call that states that Avigail is going to marry the poorest boy among the Jewish boys. And Shlomo Hamelech is very surprised. He says, really? I'd expect her to marry the richest, most important, most prestigious,
he was
most
very
what we call gesh. Gesh means like, like from the most affluent family. Gesh is from the word geza. Geza means a root. When a tree has a very good root. No, it means like from the word roots. That his roots are very, very right. That his roots are very, very strong, very good. So someone who comes from a family of big Talmidei Chachamim or important leaders is called that he comes from a very Gesh family, from the word Geza, from the word roots. So he says, you know what? I'm going to make a test because I want to show people that if a bat kol, a heavenly voice, says that a girl is going to marry a certain boy, it's supposed to happen no matter what. And I'm going to make a test and let's see. And he takes Avigail, his beautiful daughter. She was of marriageable age. And he puts her, he builds a big castle in an island in the Mediterranean. Now,
so hot.
If I'm not mistaken, it was the island of Tzipori, which if I'm not mistaken is Cyprus. But it could be I'm wrong, so don't quote me on it. Either way, an island off the coast of Israel in the Mediterranean Sea. And it's a small little island, and he builds on it a big, gorgeous castle. And he makes a big balcony. On the balcony, he makes like a nice, almost like a swimming pool, which is like a mikvah. And he tells them to fill the castle with lots of food, everything she's going to need to take care of herself. Clothing.
Of course.
And he says, now remove the stairs. And they said, what? He says, yes, take away the stairs. Very high up. And he says, surround the building. I think it was
means she can never
with
go
100
outside.
soldiers. No, but she had a huge balcony, which was like the outside.
Oh.
But she was high up in the sky.
Couldn't get
It was a very, very tall tower. It's a tall castle. And he surrounds it with soldiers. With swords and with bows and arrows and spears.
Why?
And he says, on penalty of death, no one is allowed to go up into the palace where Avigail is. Sorry. Now, children, remember, I always tell you that the Goyim take our Jewish stories and they they switch it and they twist it. Well, I know there's a Goyish story, I believe they call it Rapunzel,
Yes.
where a girl is tied up and locked up at the top of a castle.
And she's
But
not
when in the
allowed.
Gemara, in the Talmud, children, this is the real story. It's such a pity that the Goyim take it and they mix it up and confuse it.
And also,
Yes, that's the story of the golden slippers. If you want,
also the same thing with the king of Persia, whatever his name is,
right? So many stories.
Tarzan, whatever.
Right? Oh, that's right. Koresh, yes.
Yeah, Koresh.
Now, if you want, we'll tell the story of the golden slippers another time. That's a very long story. But I
It's
think my
so
puppet shows
clever.
has it. Actually, the story is also on my puppet shows, I think. But never mind. And he takes Abigail and he puts her into the palace. And he says no one is allowed to go up.
But then
And-
she can never get married.
No, he was doing it for a 1-year test.
Oh.
And he says, Hashem, a year or for a year or 2 years, I don't know how long. And he says, I'm going to see.
No
I'm going to
food?
see. No, he gave her lots of food, plenty food. All the food she needed, and there was like a swimming pool, and bed, and blankets, pillows, clothing, hairbrush, whatever. and
Sink.
and he leaves her there.
Kitchen.
And he says no one's ever allowed. And every night, the soldiers surround the palace, and they patrol, and they make sure nobody will ever leave, and no one can ever come to the island, and it's far off. And besides, even if you came to the palace, there's no way of going up because there are no stairs. And in a far, far off city of Akko, Akko is a famous story. Many stories happen in Akko. That's the story where Rabbi Akiva gets trapped. Remember when none of the people would let him sleep in their town?
Yeah.
But this is going way, way, way back
This
earlier.
is the
Oh.
And
place.
Akko is a very ancient city.
Was
and-
it the same place? That was the same place?
Yes, that's the city. But early that, by the time Rabbi Akiva comes there, I don't think it was a very Jewish city anymore. But during the time of Shlomo Hamelech, it was a very Jewish city. And in the city was a very, very poor old couple. And they had one young boy, a young son. He must have been in his teens, maybe he was 20. And
Yeah, he was like 19.
he sees that his father keeps working very hard to take care of him and his mom and feed him. And he says, Dad, I'm not going to trouble you anymore. I'm not going to stay
I thought you
home.
were passed away.
He was, no, his father, I don't think his parents died. When I read the story originally, or when Papa told it to me when I was a little girl, they were still alive, but he didn't want to trouble them. And he figures he's going to travel and he's going to try and make his own profession, his own money. And he was very good with his hands, and he was very, very Yeresh Shamayim, meaning he loved Torah, he loved Hashem, and he learns to become a sofer.
Oh, I'm sorry.
A sofer is a person who can write a Sefer Torah, can write Tefillin, Mezuzot, but not just write it, can also check it. Now, in order to write a Sefer Torah, Tefillin, Mezuzot, you need parchment, you need ink, you need stuff. Let's call this boy Chaim. I don't know his real name.
His name was Chaim.
No, I made it up. I don't know his real name. And Chaim decides to become a sofer, but he doesn't know money to start buying parchment or anything like that.
Parchment is like a lot of
And
money.
he starts to knock from door to door and asking people, do you want to have your mezuzot checked? Do you want to have your tefillin checked in exchange for a meal to eat? And people were glad. They said, sure, check my tefillin, check my mezuzot, check my Megillah. Oh no, there was no Megillah yet. Sorry, it's before the story of Purim.
Yeah.
check whatever halakha stuff they had, holy things they had. And in return, they'd give him food to eat. And he was always very grateful, and that's how he survived. But he never had really a good place to sleep. And one night, he's traveling from village to village, and he finds himself out like in an open
I was
field.
reading, Mommy.
And it starts to pour with rain, and it's freezing, and it's thunder and lightning, and he has no shelter. And of course, what do we do when we need help? Who do we turn to? Right, and he turns to Hashem and he says, please,
Did he make
Hashem.
the bracha did he make the
Yes, on
bracha?
thunder and lightning. He says, please.
Yesterday we were learning
Right,
about
he says,
it.
please, Hashem. Oh, beautiful. Please, Hashem, help me. Please find me shelter. And as he's davening, he thinks it's so ridiculous. I'm davening to Hashem to find me shelter over here. I'm out in this vast, like a mall, like a huge field. It went on for like miles. And he says, how is there going to be shelter here in this open field? But he knew if you pray to Hashem, Hashem can do a miracle. And as he's
No trees?
trying to no trees, and he's cuddling his like tattered clothing. His clothing was full of holes, and he's cuddling and he's walking through the field, and he says, "Please, Hashem, Hashem, you Hashem can do anything. Please help me find shelter out in this open field."
What's a shelter?
Shelter means covering, like a house, a little house. And as he's walking in the darkness, suddenly he goes plop, and he trips over something. And he looks, and to his surprise, it's a cow, but it's a dead cow. And the cow...
I know this story.
Oh, okay, but not now, guys, not now. I know. And he says, "Oh, wow. See, I thought it's impossible for Hashem to help me find shelter here. But truly, what we need to do, children, is that even if a situation seems impossible, we need to pray. And we need to say, Hashem, I'll do my part, but you do yours. And even when it seems completely impossible, Hashem can always do everything. And Hashem doesn't have to make like a bang miracle that destroys nature. Hashem can find a way that seems perfectly natural, but at the same time, our needs are met." And he realizes, hey, this cow is a dead cow. And it had been dead for a long time. And the only thing that remained was, come give Tati a kiss goodnight, children. Come kiss Tati goodnight. Stand up for Tati.
Stop, Tati.
Oh, stand up for Tati. Stand for Tati down. Give Tati a kiss goodnight. Say, I love you, Tati. And he said, thanks, Tati. And he realizes that this cow was dead for a long time, many months, and the only thing that remained was the bones and
he took out
the
the bones?
skins. I guess so. They were already collapsed, kind of. So they're not even held together because there was no flesh. But the skin, the hide, the hide means the outside skin, was still thick and strong, and it's waterproof. It's like a very strong raincoat. It's almost like a little house. And he says, "Thank you, Hashem. Thank you for finding a way to like quickly and easily help me even when its situation seems impossible." And he quickly crawls inside under the skin and he wraps himself. And it was a big cow. Cows are pretty big.
Oh, yeah.
And he feels, sudden warmth, and he is protected from this pouring rain, and he's exhausted from traveling the whole day. And it was late and cold and dark, and he somehow manages to make like a pillow out of the skin, and he says Shema, and he blissfully falls asleep. And as he's sleeping, he feels like he's in a dream, and the whole thing is floating, and he's like in the air, and he says, "Oh, what an amazing dream. But it's such a real dream. It really feels like I'm like hovering in the air." And he feels like the wind gently sweeping on his face. And he's like, like cuddled up inside. Like he almost feels like he's inside a sack. Like inside the hide of this cow. And perched and like swinging. And he's like, just like, it's a very strange dream. It feels so real. And he opens his eyes. He goes, "Ha, what a dream." And now he's wide awake. And he goes, "1 minute. I'm still like tossing from side to side. I'm still like waving because this doesn't make any sense." And he peeks his head out from inside this carcass. And he goes, I'm up in the sky. He looks down and way below.
It's so scary.
And he's flying. He goes, "How am I flying? What happened? Some crazy miracle. What happened?" And he peeks up and he looks up and he sees claws. Like very tightly holding on to the carcass of the cow.
Some kind of
It was
bird.
a huge eagle. And this eagle, or maybe like a golden eagle, I don't know. Very, very strong. Eagles are massive, some of them. And these eagles like to eat meat, and they like to eat skin and cows. not just skin, it probably wanted the flesh. It didn't realize there was no real flesh inside. And that it was just Chaim inside. And he goes, "Wow, Hashem, save me, I'm flying on." He's holding on for dear life and he's clutching on, praying that this cow isn't going, this eagle isn't going to like drop him and God forbid he'll go flying down. And he's davening, "Hashem, Hashem, protect me, Hashem, save me." And true enough, the eagle gently swoops and puts him on down gently. And he's gently put down. He goes, "Oh, thank God. It's pitch dark. It's pitch black." And he gets up and the eagle suddenly is surprised to see that the inside of the cow is alive. It's a human being. And the eagle goes, "Wah, wah, wah." And it flies off. It like got scared of Chaim.
Aren't eagles not scared of humans?
They wouldn't eat a live human being, no. They might grab the food out of a human being's hand, but they wouldn't actually attack a human, no. And at least not to the best of my knowledge, no. And it flies off, leaving his feathers flew all over the place. I say it's an important detail of the story. His feathers fly all over the place. And the hide of the cow is dumped there. Chaim gets up and he's all dizzy. Whoa, where did I land? He goes, "Oh, good. I'm in solid land." And he gets up, walks around. He goes, "1 minute, I'm on some sort of balcony. Where am I?" And he looks down and to his legs again, he's like, all like dizzy from the height of it. He goes, "Whoa! I'm at some top of some huge, huge castle. Where's this castle?" And he looks for miles and he says, "Oh no, I'm in some island." Doesn't know where he is. He doesn't see lights, he doesn't see houses, he just sees all around. It's a small island and there's this castle and it's surrounded by the sea. Now, of course, where does the eagle bring him? Yeah, I'll pause for a second. And what castle did he really take him to? To the castle of?
Abigail.
And as he goes, "Well, I better sit over here. I don't know where I am. I'm going to get down from this place. I'll wait for the people living in the castle to wake up." And he sits huddled in the corner, davening to Hashem.
But what, did he sleep?
And all he has with him is his little pair of tefillin, and he's hungry, he has nothing to eat. His tefillin and his little
Did he
siddur.
eat the
feathers?
Still the feathers and the cow. No, he didn't eat the cow because the cow wasn't kosher.
No, did he
Was
take the
shechted.
feathers?
He had the feather. The feather he's going to use soon, wait. And with sun rises, and he sees the doors. He looks around, he goes, "Wow, what a magnificent castle. I wonder if I'm in some king's palace or something. I don't know where I am. I hope he doesn't get angry with me." And as he stands in the corner and he's putting on his tefillin.
Was he married?
No, he wasn't married. He puts on his tefillin and he puts on his little siddur and he stands in the corner and he's davening and praying everything should go well. Now, while he's davening, Abigail wakes up in the morning and she washes Natilat Yadayim and she goes out with her daven on the balcony the way she always davens. She comes out and all of a sudden, to her shock, there's some strange guy on her balcony and he's dressed in shmatis. His clothes are all tattered and there is some sort of funny looking dead cow on the floor and feathers all over the place. And she's incredulous. What's this guy? How did he get up here? And thinks, "Oh my gosh, how did he get up here? Did one of the gods let him come? Did he climb up the walls? Is he an angel? What is he? I don't know what he is." And she's a little scared of him. And she doesn't know what to do. And she stands in the corner and she watches and she observes. And she sees that he's davening with a lot of kavanah. And she sees that as she watches him, she realizes that this man is a regular man. He's not some monster or something. And that he's very yerushalayimdik. He's davening with a lot of kavanah. And he has very refined. And he finishes davening. And he puts the siddur away. And he turns around. And suddenly he sees before him this most beautiful, beautiful princess. As I told you, Abigail was actually considered the most beautiful girl in the land of Israel at the time. And
was she one of the four beautiful?
I'm not sure. It was actually 7 most beautiful women. And I never get it right. I'm always confused with the 7 are. Sarah, I think Chava, Darling, I don't always mix it up. I think Abigail was one of the 7 most beautiful
Yeah, I'm
women.
pretty sure too.
I'm pretty sure Abigail was. I'm 99% that she's one of the 7 most beautiful women that Hashem ever created. And he's dazzled by her beauty, but of course he's very tsanua, he doesn't stare or anything. And he says, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to come. Forgive me, I'll leave. And she tells him, how are you going to leave? And he says, well, I'll use the stairs. I'll go down. She goes, there are no stairs. He goes, what do you mean? She says, you're stuck, man. There's no way of getting out of here. And he goes, what do you mean? And she says, well, I'm Princess Abigail. And he goes, oh my gosh. I heard the story that your father, Shlomo Hamelech, put you in the palace and locked you up to see if Hashem could bring you the poorest guy in the land to marry. And she goes, and it looks like he did. And he goes, well, yeah, probably I'm the poorest boy in the land of Israel. She goes, how did you come here? He says, well, what did I tell you? I was sleeping inside this dead cow, and Hashem sent a huge eagle that lifted the cow, wanted to eat the cow, I guess. And he flew with me and he landed me here in your balcony. And he says, we have a bit of a problem. He says, my being here, locked up with you in the palace, up here is a problem of yichud. Thank you. A boy and a girl may not be locked up alone. It's a very, very strict halacha, and there's many halachot, but they don't go alone. It doesn't even mean just locked with a lock. For example, they can't go alone into a forest when nobody else is there.
You cannot close the door to our room.
Right. Or they'll be in a room and people will not come in without first knocking on the door. That's considered locked. And he says to her, Abigail, actually it says that she asks him, she tells him, Chaim, will you marry me? And he says to her, Abigail, I'm the poorest boy in the land. She says, well, that's what the Bat Kol said. And she said, I don't care that you're poor. I just want to marry a boy who's got Yirat Shamayim and Midot Tovot. And it seems like you do. I was watching you daven. And she talks to him a little bit and she gets to know him a little. And she says, you stuck here alone with me is a problem of yichud. And he says, I would love to marry you. He says, but we have to be careful. I can't just... A Jewish boy may never come close to a girl or be locked up alone with her unless there's a proper, what we call, nisu'im. Nisu'im is marriage contract. Every Jewish girl is a princess. And princesses may not be just anyone can just come and take them or touch them, chas v'chalila, or give them a hug or anything like that. A husband and a wife, it's very holy for them to be together when a chatan and kala get married. Remember we spoke about it before? A chassan and a kala get married, right? After they're married, now that he's married her, and he gave her ketuvah, and he promised to take care of her for the rest of her life, and he promised to take care of her food and her clothing, and to give her things that only a husband can give a wife, then he's allowed to be locked up alone with her. And then that's why we do what's called the cheder yichud, the room of yichud. After the chuppah, they go and we lock them alone for a few minutes to show that now they're really married. So he says, I have to, if you want to get married, we have to do it halachically, correctly. He says, I have to give you a ketuvah, a contract that promises that I will take care of you for the rest of your life. He says, I am not allowed to take you and live with you like a husband without a ketuvah, without this respectful contract that a Jewish man gives a Jewish girl. So she says to her, do you have any parchment? She says, no. He says, oh, don't worry. The cows hide. I'm a sofer. I know how to take skin and turn it into cloth, into parchment. And he takes it, he turns it into parchment. And he says, we need a pen or something to write with. She says, I don't know. And he looks down and he goes, whoa, 1 minute. The eagle dropped a lot of feathers dropped off. We'll use it as ink. We'll use it as a quill, like a pen for writing. And then he says, there's no ink. And children, the Gemara, I believe it's Gemara Sota that tells us this story, but I might be wrong. It tells us it is so strict that a boy can only touch a girl and come close to her if he marries her properly. That Chaim, And this is the story, one of the reasons why the Gemara tells the story for many reasons. But one of the reasons the story drives home the message that it is so strict that even he needed to make himself bleed. It says that he found a sharp stone or something sharp and he cut himself so that he didn't have any ink to write with. He says, I will use my own blood and I will write a ketuvah for you with my own blood. Because in Jewish Torah, Hashem says the Jewish girls are so holy and are so precious that only with a proper ketuvah and a proper marriage can she be close to a boy, and so or a boy can come close to her and make her live like a husband and wife. That it says that we had the Mesurut Nefesh, that he made himself bleed, and he had to bleed quite a bit because it's a lot of writing. Ketuvah is quite long. If ever you go to a chuppah, you'll see ketuvot are quite long, and he needed quite a bit of blood, but he didn't care.
Did it make him weak?
Possibly, but he managed. He survived. And even though there was no doctor there, he goes, no, living with you has to be halachically correct, and even though I'll have to bleed a lot, I don't care. And he makes himself bleed, and he dips the feather into his own blood, and he writes, because he was a sofer, he knew how to write ketuvah, and he was a Talmid Chacham. And he says, we need witnesses. And he says, I'm going to daven to Hashem. He says, nobody here. He says, I will daven to Hashem. And he davens to Hashem that Hashem should make Malach Michael and Malach Gavriel come down from Shamayim and be the two witnesses, and they do. And he makes a proper marriage contract, and they live together as a husband and wife. Now, when a couple gets married, there's the greatest gift in the world that Hashem can give, a chassan and a kala. What's that gift?
Baby.
A baby. And of course, Hashem blesses them. Takes a good few months, like 9 months. 9 months later, she gives birth to a beautiful baby boy. And one
What is
night,
his name?
I don't know the baby boys, but let's finish very quickly. I don't want to talk so long. The soldiers are downstairs, and suddenly one soldier hears, wah, wah, wah. And he turns to his friend. He goes, why are you crying like a baby? He goes, me, I'm not crying like a baby. You're the one crying like a baby. Cry like a baby? Don't be silly. Of course I'm not. He goes, why is there a baby? There's a baby somewhere. How can a baby be here in this little island? And they're looking around, they walk all around, and all the soldiers are all hearing the sound of a baby. And they say, where's the sound of the baby coming from? And they look up. And they say, whoa, it's coming from the top of the palace. They say, how'd the baby get up there? Hashem only puts a baby in a girl's tummy if there's a daddy and a mommy. That's how Hashem made it, that there has to be a chassan and a kala who got married, and then when there is a boy and a girl who together they get married, Hashem puts the neshama in the tummy of the mommy. And they said she couldn't have had a baby in a tummy. Hashem would have done that if there wasn't a chassan, there wasn't a daddy. And they said, oh no! And they quickly send messages to Shlomo Hamelech. They say, Shlomo Hamelech, we don't know what happened. But there's a baby in the palace and we can't figure out how. Shlomo Hamelech again quickly brings ladders, and he comes and he checks, and he finds Avigail, and he sees her with the baby, and he says, where did this baby come from? How did you get a baby if you didn't have a boy to marry? And she says, no, Daddy, I did have this as Chaim. And they tell him the whole story of how Hashem brought Chaim and an eagle inside a cow. And Shlomo Hamelech says, see what Hashem wants when a certain boy has to marry a certain girl, and a bat call from Shamayim calls out and says, this boy to this girl, Hashem, no matter what, it's beshert, and Hashem will make it happen. And we have to accept it, and Hashem should give everybody a good husband and a good wife, and he takes them back to Jerusalem, of course, and he brings them a big palace, and they live happily ever after. But told him the many, many, many points of this story. But the Gemara gives us the main point that a boy and a girl must always make a proper wedding with a chatan and kala together with the rabbi before they can live close and be close to each other.